Mr. Zaganjori, thank you for joining us today and the honor of visiting the ICD here in Berlin, and thank you for your lecture and discussions. We would like to ask you 4 questions to hear your thoughts and opinions on some salient issues. The Interparliamentary Alliance for Human Rights and Global Peace has been established to raise awareness of the universality of fundamental human rights. How important do you see the role of international law in assuring the development and implementation of human rights globally, and what role can cultural diplomacy play in this regard?
Thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me to this very important conference and for inviting me to give this short interview. Of course, human rights plays a very important role in a democratic state, of course. It's a condition, because if a state doesn't respect human rights, then for the individual, the word democracy, it's an empty word. So that's the reason why the United Nations, after the Second World War, has paid very much attention to the human rights in general. And then it's approved the Charter, the Declaration on Human Rights in 1948, and then in different continents there are different systems. But of course, in Europe it's the most developed system for protecting human rights and fundamental freedoms, because they have created effective mechanism to control the establishment of the standards, of the international standards of human rights and fundamental freedoms, especially after the Protocol 98 and in Protocol 11, approved in 98. And now not only the United Nations, but also other mechanisms like Council of Europe, European Union, and so on, have paid special attention to human rights, because, as I said, respecting human rights is a condition sine qua non for democracy as form of governance. In that regard, I think that everybody can play a very important role, but a very known institute like Institute for Cultural Democracy may play a very important role today for the in different fields of human rights, because human rights it's a broad notion, but of course in different fields for understanding, for cooperation, for implementing practically human rights, freedom of religion, freedom of organization, freedom of speech, and so on. It's a lot of space to do a lot of things in that regard, and I am sure that as in the past, also now the Institute for Cultural Democracy may play a very important role, because let's take religion. Religion, it's a very important subject today, and very sensitive subject today, and practically we need to bring communities of different religions together, and we have to find ways to construct bridges of understanding between different religions and between different cultures among us. So in that regard, I repeat, the Institute for Cultural Democracy may play a very important role.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. One of our keynote speakers of today, I think just before you in the program, was the Mufti of Tuzla, who also stated the importance of having religion playing a distinctive role in bringing together people and fostering mutual understanding. So in that way, yes, absolutely. We have an agreement on that one.
May I say also a little bit more on that subject, freedom of religion? Of course, we have a lot of problems in the field of human rights, Albania too. And we are trying to integrate to the European Union, but we have to do a lot of works in the field of human rights too. But as regards the freedom of religion, I can say proudly that Albania gives a very good example for tolerance and understanding between religions. I mentioned also in my speech before some minutes, because although we are divided in four main religions, Catholics, Muslims, Orthodox, and Bektashins, historically it was a very good understanding and tolerance and cooperation between religions, and we never had problems between religions in Albania. This was also, that's the reason I wanted to stress, this was the main reason mentioned officially why Pope Francis a month ago paid a visit in Albania, yes, saying to the world that Albania gives a very good example for tolerance and understanding between religions. And this was a very good message, not only for Albania, but this was for all of the region too, and maybe for all of the world too.
Indeed, indeed. I think we can agree that Pope Francis has really gave a big stimulating effect to the popularity and acceptance of the Church as an institute.
Yes.
Yes. During your work as an ambassador for the Republic of Albania in Germany, and your contact with diverging cultural differences and ideals, how do you see the role of cultural diplomacy in helping to ease these international relations and differences?
Oh, of course, it plays cultural diplomacy plays a very important role, because it brings together people from different countries, and brings together people from different religions. I was, you mentioned rightly, but years ago, after the democratic changings in '92, I was appointed the Albanian ambassador, and I was surprised then, coming from university, from the readiness, from the openness I found here in Germany. It was Bonn at that time, capital of Germany, and we had not only with the German partners at that time a lot of changings, a lot of agreements were achieved, but also we had the possibility, me personally also, to have a lot of contacts with my colleagues and to change views, not only from the region, from the Balkans, with the ambassadors of Montenegro, or Macedonia, or Croatia, Slovenia, and so on, but also with the other ambassadors. And we organized a lot of activities. And with the German partners too, we organized a lot of activities too in different cities. Because, as I mentioned in my speech, Albania for more than half a century was with an iron isolation. It was not known in the world. We had no diplomatic relations with Germany too that time. But through culture, it is possible to understand and to get known people and to traditions and a lot of things. That's the reason why I remember we organized a lot of things with universities at that time, exhibitions and activities, and some other cultural activities, which I think have been very, very successful. Not only to present Albania, but also to understand each other and to get known each other in different fields of life.
Brilliant. I understand that the relation between Germany and Albania and vice versa is very good. Germany is now seen as the center of gravity for the European Union. Albania, as a candidate for the European Union, is facing a number of constitutional changes. What do you see as the benefits and costs of your accession to the EU? And what is your stance on Albania entering the Eurozone?
As regard European Union membership, of course, I think that rightly now is required to have not, let's say, to fulfill not conditions of economy class, as I saw also in a Zeitschrift some days ago, but to fulfill conditions or requirements of the first class, because values such things like democracy, rule of law, and human rights and so on are the main values of the European Union. That's the reason why Article 2 of the European Union Treaty mentioned that that democracy, rule of law, and human rights, and protection of minority, and so on, are main values of the European Union. So, candidate states have to fulfill these requirements to become a member of the European Union. And we have a lot of things to do in this field, and a lot of housework to be done. We have a lot of problems with the performance of judiciary. We have a lot of problems in different fields of life, with different elements of the rule of law and democracy in general. That's the reason why we have to continue our reforms. And the reforms also needs to be done also in the constitutional level too. We need to change some articles because we need to increase the performance. We need to strengthen the rule of law in Albania, and we need to better protect the interests of the individuals, of the citizens in Albania. That's the reason why we are now in connection with experts coming from different countries. We just finished 2 conferences, one organized from the President of the Republic together with the Minister of Justice, and the other organized from the Minister of Justice some days ago. And we are now ready to work with our international partners to make, let's say in practice, reality, the changings needed to be done in that field, in the constitutional level, but also a lot of laws needs to be changed, like the law on constitutional court, or the law on the organization and functioning of the justice system, or the law on the High Council of Justice, or the law on the Supreme Court, and so on. We are in the process. We are very optimistic to go further in that direction. And what is good in that direction is that it is a broader consensus, because there are a lot of problems between political parties for different reasons, but in the last weeks also the opposition has shown a very good, let's say, responsibility, and to give consensus to go forward with a reform in the justice system.
I see. You mentioned values for the European Union: democracy, human rights, rule of law, which are also the core elements of the Council of Europe. Albania has recently had the presidency for Council of Europe, which was a very successful period.
Yes, that's right.
And also Albania, connected to the Council of Europe, has a distinct role in the European Court of Human Rights, yes, I believe.
Since '95.
Yes, indeed. How has your experience on the Supreme Court affected your views on Albanian culture and Albania's intercultural relations? Is cultural diplomacy a tool to improve relations with Albania?
I mentioned also before, because culture interferes in the heart of the individual, so bring together different communities within one country, and also within one region, and going further and further. That's the reason why, of course, it plays for me a very important role, this, and I think that but maybe for the future there are spaces to make more in that direction, in the field of cultural diplomacy, not only let's say in formally, only in conferences and in round tables coming together, but also to make in everyday life, so to bring together and to understand also the others, and to bring or let's say differences, to have the differences as a bridge of understanding each other.
I think we have finished this interview. I would like to thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
And I hope to see you again in the very soon future.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here, and I wish you also good luck and success.
Thank you very much.